Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mental Mosaic with Kiki Garcia. And I know that you know that I love to read, whether I'm at the library, all my books behind me, I love it. And when I heard about this, kind of being compared to John Wick and The Gray Man and Jack Ryan, I knew I had to read it. It's The Handler from MP Woodward, and we have him as our special guest today. First of all, I have to say thank you so much for all of your service. You are a veteran, and it's just an honor to be speaking with you today.
Hey, thanks, Kiki. Thanks for that. And it's great to be here.
So this book had me holding my breath from like page one. How did you do it? I like seriously, my heart, like, you're anticipating something. Well, I don't want to give anything away, but you're kind of anticipating something's going to happen. You don't know if it's good or bad, but you know it's something and it's going to be big. I think the first three chapters alone, I just like held my breath the whole time. How did you do this?
Thank you, Kiki. I guess I would say that I had an experience about 10 years as an intelligence officer, so I knew kind of how those people operated and how they thought. And I knew that one thing I really wanted to convey was that they're real people and that they have real fears and real emotions. And so I wanted to bring that into that sort of interiority with characters. And then later in my career, moving into the private sector, I was an executive at Amazon, helping to get streaming video off the ground. And so worked with a lot of content creators and kind of had to analyze with what goes into suspense, what goes into a good story. So fusing those two things together was my strategy in writing the book.
So how do you go from being in the military and like this? I mean, you from your little bio here, you sound like a smarty to me, to working for Amazon. How did that happen?
I was in the military throughout the 90s. I got out about the year 2000. And if you think back to then, the internet was just becoming a big deal. It was kind of the dot-com boom. So, and it was also the end of the previous Cold War. So it was sort of like the military was in many ways not a growth industry while the tech community was. And so I made the difficult decision to leave the service and get involved in the tech industry. And my background had given me a leg up in understanding internet technologies. And one thing led to another, and you just end up at a good company with good people, and pretty soon you're working on interesting things. So that's how it went for me.
What inspired you to start writing?
I think I had that in me ever since I was a little kid, to be honest with you. I it was something that was always of interest to me, something I tried to do a couple times. And then as you get older, your life gets in the way and you have a lot of responsibilities and you have kids and marriage and you need to make money and pay the mortgage and all those kinds of things. I had a professional life that effectively had no time at all for it. And then when COVID happened, I had a little more time. I had a little more time in the mornings and the afternoons, and my busy travel schedule slowed some. And so I really wanted a creative outlet and something to do over a very long, dark, cold winter. And so I started playing around with it. And before I knew it, I was having just so much fun and enjoying it that I just kept going.
Well, you definitely have a talent for this, and I was so surprised to find out this is your first book. Is that correct?
First book, probably third serious attempt, but my last attempt was a good 15 years ago.
It's incredible. And, you mentioned this a little bit too. You're so good at, like, I was totally on certain characters' sides, like from the get-go. Like they're so real. And I think sometimes when we see like special ops and all these secret missions, you think that they're almost like, I don't know, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like they don't have feelings and they're like robots, and you're making them like everyone else, like, they do. They have families, they have kids that they're worried about, and ex-husbands. And it's just, you're so talented. Like you had me from page one.
Oh, that means the world to me. The mantra I kind of had in my head starting off was I wanted ordinary people doing extraordinary things. because those were the people that I had met. And so that was one concept. And the other concept was that these ordinary people doing extraordinary things can have an outsized influence on world events. You know, we tend to think of the politicians and the national leaders and things happening in, you know, the Oval Office and that kind of stuff. And it's like, yes, but the action is actually going to be carried out by somebody who's, you know, 37 years old that has a kid, right? And so I really wanted to present that point of view. And I chafe a little bit at the modern movies like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That all has its place, but people aren't superheroes. You know, things like this don't happen. And so I wanted that rootability factor in the characters. I wanted people, you know, to be able to identify and say, I know a guy like that. And oh man, look what he's up against. So you could really feel it. So that was somewhat intentional. Yeah.
I love how you also have the cast of characters in the beginning, because I found myself, you know, wait, who's this again? Wait, let me go back and see. And I love that part. I mean, that's like Googling a movie. I love it.
Well, good. You know, when I set up to write it, my experience growing up as a kid in the 80s, Tom Clancy was very popular. I read lots of Tom Clancy books. And if you think back to those, they were always told from multiple points of view. And I liked that. And I liked the technical accuracy. I always thought he could have done a better job with the character depth. But because I did have these multiple points of view from the Russian SVR and the, you know, Iranian intelligence service and stuff, I was worried that people would have a hard time following. So I started off with that character map in the beginning. And I've sort of since learned that you need to be very careful about how much you introduce. Like, you really have to be thoughtful about how you bring people along. And it's a fine line between being complex enough that it's interesting and being too complex to where you confuse people. And so I find that that's kind of it's more art than science of writing that line. And so I don't always get it right, but that's what I'm trying to do.
So here at Mental Mosaic, I like to talk about how a person is so many different pieces, and, you know, how we try to keep our mental health in check and just, you know, broaden our horizons. How important do you think as a person is it to get just lost in a book? Because that's what I do. I just get lost, I picture it, and sometimes I don't want to leave. Sometimes I get to the last chapter and I'm not ready to finish it yet, so I'll put it down for a week. How important is that for our mental health, in your opinion?
I don't think I would have mental health if it weren't for that. Let's put it that way. Look, I think it's enormously important, and I would mention a couple things. One is there's a big difference. I mean, the primary difference, I think, between a movie and a book is that you can get in other people's heads in a book and you can live their life and you can really experience that. And it can, if it's very realistic, it can teach you things and it can make you think about your own life through that character's eyes. And that's something that really sticks with you. And movies don't really do that. And for me, throughout my life, I can think about, hey, here was a novel I read at that point where I learned a lot or thought a lot about a particular theme that I still do to this day. And I still to this day will use that as a frame of reference in thinking about things. So that was certainly how I felt about it. And if I can evolve as a writer to a point where somebody says that about me one day, that would be my life's ambition.
I love it. And that being said, do you see this being turned into a movie someday?
Well, yeah, I think I do. And I've had a number of I mean, of course, who doesn't want that, right? But
Right.
But I have had a number of conversations with filmmakers, and I learn a lot. I worked with quite a few at Amazon, and then I've met quite a few in this process. And I love looking at how those guys think about stories. I mean, they are real artists. And what they're doing is just a different art form, which is taking a novel form and then crunching it down to its barest elements and to where one scene has to convey multiple things. As a novelist, you can take several pages to do that, and it's the strength of that medium. As a filmmaker, you don't get that opportunity. So it has to get just right, and you have to work with actors and sets and budgets and everything else to get it there. Whereas a novelist, your budget's unlimited in what your set is. And so I'm kind of fascinated about bridging that divide. But at the end of the day, hopefully it's a good story with believable characters where there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a good thrill ride along the way.
Well, I loved it. It's called The Handler. And where can people go to find out more about you and your book?
Yeah, my website's mpwoodward.com. All my social links are there. Twitter's mpw author. The book is available anywhere you buy books. So the hardback's everywhere. It's out from Penguin Random House. And of course, if you're into ebooks, it's on Kindle. And if you're into audiobooks, it's on Audible. And I love the narrator on Audible. I should give a shout out to him. I thought he did an amazing job. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to listen to it. I love like real books. I do have Audible, but like there's something about having a book in your hand, and I just love it.
God bless you. We need more of you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, and I look forward to talking with you again.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kiki. Take care.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye.